Okay. Hi, everyone. Thermomix Canada is live.
We're live
from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm Valerie Lugonja, a Thermomix independent consultant that's been with the company for, since 2019 when we opened, but I've been selling Thermomix since 2015, 2007, 15 years. And this is my daughter, Ragan.
And I have been selling Thermomix, since 2015.
Ragan Rodgers. So she's going to be our host over there today, and she'll check that sound and everything is great. And I'm going to be starting with a little bit of recap. We've had our O Canada Cookidoo collection launching on June 25th. And on June 25th, the O Canada Cookidoo collection launched. And then there was 2 Facebook Lives on the 26th, 27th, 28th, and today's the 30th, 29th, and 30th. There was a Facebook Live every day, and you can go back and watch them on Facebook, where consultants from every branch and all across the country were making Thermomix Canada recipes from our Cookidoo O Canada collection to celebrate this incredible launch of our first and ever, yay, O Canada Canadian recipes on Cookidoo. So that is so terribly exciting. The series is closing today. We hope that you're going to participate in our strawberry shortcake event, but I got to tell you, see my flags are flying here. It is so hot, and it's very hot to cook today in Canadian kitchens. We're having a heat wave like none other. Can you tell us where you're coming in from? Where you're from? Is it morning, noon, evening? Which country, which province, which city? And are you cooking along with us today?
We do have some from Quebec and from BC. From St. Donat, Quebec is Lu's parent.
Hi, Luce!
And then Glenn Burkhart from Oliver, BC.
Oh, Glenn, my schmoo cake guy. This is so wonderful that you were able to join us, and I'm sure there's others too. So let me introduce you to our very famous Canadian traditional pie pastry recipe. Some of you may not be aware that Canada is really famous for its pie pastry. Now, it is, and the reason I say that is because, there's some generations that haven't ever really made a homemade pie. But now you can on your Thermomix. This is the very same recipe that was put on the tender flake box in Canada in 1943. Let's switch cameras for a minute, okay? All right. Can you see this now? You got a good view? All right, I'm just going to show you this. When we take this out, you can see the tender flake box. And way back from 1943 until now, there is the coveted, very special recipe on the inside of the box. Isn't that amazing? So we have very simple ingredients in this recipe. Flour, 2 times. We're going to put it in 2 times. 2 teaspoons of salt. And then we have an egg, some vinegar, and some cream. And that's it. I'll show you the cream in a minute when we use it because it's cold and it needs to set out. But for now, right now, I'm going to prepare the tender flake lard for our pastry and let you take a look at how we can do that. It comes in some beautiful parchment or vellum kind of paper that you see here. And I'm just going to fold this out. And what you do then is you just take and cut it in half. Now the recipe will call for exact grams. Don't worry, that's because we do it in half. All right, I'm going to do this one on another parchment paper later. So I'll show you how to do the first half. We're just going to cut it like this in nice slabs and then quarters. Let me just move this to the middle so you have a better view. It's a very simple preparation. Doesn't matter if it's terribly even. And then we're just going to set it out. Oh, it's a hot day in the kitchen today. Flags flowing as the fans are blowing. Because you know what's so funny? In Edmonton, Alberta, we don't have air conditioning. Some people do, but most people don't. Because it's only hot really a couple of weeks of the year and never this hot. So because of that, this lard has been out of the fridge for only a couple of minutes and already it's quite soft. Best practice in the winter, you probably don't need to freeze this to make your pie pastry, but it's a best practice to freeze this in the freezer for a little while. Now there you go. Let me have the pie pastry, please, that we prepared. Now there'll be 2 of these. This is 1/2. We do use the whole pound of lard. And it is a pound because in 1943, Canada was still using imperial measurements. So they have never changed from that. So here I have it prepared already. And I'm going to do a little switch of this to this. And so here's our 2 layers of prepared lard for our recipe. And I'm now going to switch cameras and go over and start the recipe on Thermomix. Okay, here we go. So you can see that right here on my cook today, I've got 2 recipes because we're also making the famous, Ragan will be making the tarte à sucre or the sugar tart from Quebec, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now this is a big batch, but what else do you do with a pound of pie pastry? You make it all at once when it's with a Thermomix, and then you have it to bring out whenever you like. Let me show you. It actually makes 6 discs this size. So 6 pies or 3 doubles if you're putting the crust on top. And it freezes beautifully. So that's all you need to worry about. Now, I'll tell you a little story about the pastry as we get making it. I'm going to start cooking 425 grams of all-purpose flour. So that's why this is divided in half, because really it takes 850 for the whole recipe, but we do it in 2 portions. So I know there's a question, and I'm just going to take that in a minute as soon as I do this. 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to just mix that together. I think, maybe I'm reading ahead. Insert measuring cup, you betcha. And then 5 seconds at speed 4, just simply to sift. We're just mixing the salt into the flour or sifting. What's the question, Reagan?
So the question is, just to be clear, the lard gets frozen after it's diced?
Yes. Yes, we dice the lard and then we freeze it. Okay. So then we add, it says 114 grams of lard. Now, interestingly enough, you saw that I did half. And you know, you may know or may not know that 1 pound is 454 grams. And let me get this over here. So 1 pound is 454 grams. So we know that 114 grams is only going to be half of the first half because we're doing it in halves. So I'm just going to tear this. In other words, the lard is divided in half, and we're going to use the first half now. You'll see. So 114 grams. And again, because we just divided it and we didn't weigh it, don't worry if you go over a little bit. But you need to go to about 114, and that should be good. Oh, wow. So close. All right. What do we do now? Let's see. Insert measuring cup. You betcha. And then 2 seconds on turbo. Because we have this super kitchen machine that is going to revolutionize your kitchens all over the world, because you can now make Canadian pie pastry. Did you see that? In 2 seconds, just like that. So now we're going to add the other 113 grams, the rest of that half of lard. Let's take a look. Okay. Now it's not quite. Probably my other half was a little bit bigger. That's fine. Don't worry. Here we go. And we're going to go next. Insert the measuring cup. And this time it's going to be at speed. We go, it's 5 seconds, 0 to speed 10. So you know, if you have a Thermomix, when you're going to speed 10 in 5 seconds, you got to get a move on. So let's get that done. All right. So now we have to transfer this to a big silver bowl. And I'm going to do that right now. But let me show you the texture first. It's like pea meal or oatmeal. It's a beautiful, beautiful texture, but very much a pastry texture. A big silver bowl, please. Okay, I'll be a minute because I forgot to get the big silver bowl out. The one thing that I forgot, I need a big silver bowl. I know in our house we have so many sizes that big means big means big. It can mean many, many things. Here's a big one. Okay, so what we're gonna do, because we need to put another one, we're just making half. So there's half. We're ready, and we're gonna continue on again. All right, so now we need 425 more grams. This is so easy. It's so brilliant. Wait, it's so exciting. So there we go, 425 grams. And I bet you it's gonna ask for a teaspoon of salt. It does. Woohoo. There's my teaspoon of salt. Should we now sift it together for 4 seconds, 5 seconds at speed 4? Just a little sift to mix that salt in. That's great. And now we have our other half of our lard. Okay. So once again, we're going to add 114 grams. Tear. This is so easy. I mean, if our grandmothers before us had any idea that we could be cooking from scratch in our kitchens so effortlessly, such delicious, nutritious, and economical food, they would have just been so grateful. All right, there we go. Now, and I am so grateful that we now have these recipes on Cookidoo to remember those that came before, because our recipes always remind us of those we love. Measuring cup on, and I think it's on turbo for texture. All right, and we're going to go next. I think the Thermomix is a little hot today. It took a minute extra to open its lid for me. And we're adding the rest of the lard. And lard doesn't ever really freeze anyway, but it's really important that you do this step to get a beautiful flaky pastry. And there we go, absolutely perfect. And I'm just going to remove this cookie sheet. And we're going to go 5 seconds to speed 10 again, super fast. All right. And now we're going to switch cameras because I'm going to dump this into, oh, actually, we're not going to switch cameras yet. Let's not do that. Let's not switch cameras because I've got to do another step. I'm dumping this into the bowl with the other ingredients. And then we have to place a small bowl on the lid. Now, the beauty of this traditional Canadian recipe is that on a hot day like this, it might not use the same amount of liquid it will use in the middle of winter. So it really is great. So we've got the small bowl. We need 15 grams of vinegar. I've actually covered it with plastic because when I did it earlier, in 2 hours, 5 grams had already evaporated. So we'll see. I might need some more. I'll take a look here. I've got exactly 15 grams. Good for me because I did put 18 grams in there. Okay, so 15 grams of vinegar. Now this is where it gets a bit tricky. You might have to do a little math for me, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go from 15 grams and I'm going to go over to my scale. It doesn't say to do this in the recipe, but I'm going to do it and I'll explain why in a minute. I'm gonna weigh my egg. So I'm gonna tear this to 0. I'm gonna add an egg. So the egg is 50. So we have 65 grams, or 65 grams in there. And so I'm gonna go back. So we know we have 65 grams and it says add the egg and whisk it with a fork. and then add enough water to make 237 grams total. So let's do a little math here. We had 70 grams of, we had 55 grams, 50 grams of egg, 65 grams, plus what? We'll make it 165 to 175, 100 grams, 100 grams of water to 110 grams, 100 to 110 grams of ice cold water. Okay, let's tear this. So that's just a little tip for you. And I'm going to get some ice cold water from the fridge. Oh, better. Okay. Ice cold lard, ice cold water. These are keys to a really delicious flaky pastry. Okay, now we just need 100 grams. No messing around here. Help me. You know, I can go 5 grams over or 10 if I have to, but I don't want to. Well, I did go 5 over. Good thing I left myself a little leeway. Might be good advice for you too. So there we go. So this is now done. Let's switch cameras because the Thermomix now says whisk the egg liquid together with a fork, which I've done until combined, then gradually pour into, do you see this texture? Isn't it beautiful? It's a beautiful mealy texture. And now I'm going to get my D-shaped spatula. They're very economical spatulas that I use for dough and pastry making, and most Canadians have them in the kitchen if they are bakers or bread makers. And it just suggests that what we do now is start, don't use it all, just start by pouring about half around the edge of the bowl. See, I've left about more than half. I probably put 2/3 in. And then we're just going to, it says, I know what to do, but only enough to combine. So adding only enough for the dough to cling together while working to combine by hand or with a D-shaped spatula. I always use my spatula first and my hand after it becomes a little bit more workable. So once you can, I'll show you the trick here in a minute. All right. Now this is looking pretty good. Let me take and clean this spatula with my hand. You know, we weigh everything. We don't want to waste anything. All right. So now I'm just going to turn it like this with my hand. And you know it's pretty ready if you can do this and it sticks together. So I do have a little more liquid and it is sticking together. It's ready, but it probably can handle a little more liquid, certainly not all. And that's probably due to the temperature today. If you add it all, it will be too saturated on a day like this. So that's good, that's great. And now what I'm just going to do, we don't want to overwork this either, but we do want to form it into a ball. All right. It's coming, can you see that? Let's get my magic D-shaped spatula over here to help me.
Looking great.
I just love this. Any more questions? Could you put in our comments any other recipes, traditional Canadian recipes that you would like to see us put on Cookidoo in the future? We might have another collection coming out this year, probably before Christmas. I know somebody's already suggested tortillere. Are there any other suggestions? I think date squares were another suggestion from someone. Okay, this is looking pretty good. I think I can move it onto my workspace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this off and get my workspace ready for the dough. Any comments, Reagan?
We just have a new Lise Ann. She's joined us and she's from some near Montreal.
Oh,
And she says she mostly speaks French, but she's practicing English now.
wonderful. I'm sorry I'm not bilingual. I would love to be. I did take French all my life, but not too many opportunities. I made a mistake. So get that flour off. We do that when we form the pastry when we roll it out. But right now, I'm taking this almost ball of dough onto my mat, and I'm going to finish the last step of just getting it into a cohesive ball. But you can see it absolutely isn't overworked. We're doing the least amount of, it's not like we're working bread where we knead and knead. So as soon as the crumbs are picked up, this is a little different than the strawberry shortcake. You don't need to pick up all the crumbs when making the shortcake, but with the pastry, you want to make sure all the crumbs are incorporated. Okay, they're sticking. This is good. All right. Kitchen's very hot here today. So now, these will make 6 discs, approximately 250 grams. Now, if you are a perfectionist, you might want to divide it and weigh your discs, but I kind of tend to be like that. But another way to do it is simply a little logical, where you go in half, and then in thirds. That one needs to be a bit fatter because it's a bit shorter. Piaget would say, good for you, Valerie. All right, so there's 6 portions. See that beautiful texture in there? That's where you know it's going to be so lovely. And I'm just going to take this and push it down and form a disc. And then I cover it with plastic. I date it. And I put it in a Ziploc freezer bag and I freeze them all and take them out and put them in the fridge the night before, and about an hour before I'm ready to put them, or half an hour, on the counter. Can I hear you clap, please? Isn't that amazing? So great. Now, as I roll this out to make a pie, Ragan is I just continued on without reading the recipe, but freeze until needed. Ragan, we're going to switch the camera to 2 cameras so that you can see us both, and a double screen. And Ragan is going to go into my week, and she's going to prepare the sugar pie for you and tell you all about the sugar pie. There you go. I see us both now. Actually, I don't see my hands. I think we're going to have to take off something. Are we seeing 2 screens? It's okay. Ragan, you just go. Oh, yes, we are. Yeah, perfect. You go ahead and go, Ragan.
Perfect. So I'm going to be making the sugar pie, or the tarte de sucre, which is a very famous pie in the province of Quebec. Every time you go there, you have to try this. Everyone always tells you to try it. And now, thanks to this new collection that we have, we can actually make this right in our home with Cookidoo. So I'm going to switch bowls because we do have our luxury of having a second bowl.
And there's your ingredients.
Thank you.
And before you start, I just want to make one comment here, because in French, this golden sugar is called, forgive my accent, please, cassonade doré. Cassonade doré, I don't know, you'll figure it out, but there it is. So this is the right sugar for this pie.
Oh yeah, perfect. All right, so we're going to start cooking.
Is there a story behind this pie? Where's it from? Tell me a little bit. Did you already say it?
Yeah, from Quebec, the province of Quebec.
So every time I go to Quebec, I go to buy a sugar pie. It's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, yeah, and that's one of the greatest things, right? Because now we can have all of these ingredients and all of these recipes in our homes.
It's amazing.
So first step, we're gonna preheat our oven, but maybe not in this heat.
We actually are, because we're not going to waste these ingredients. So 375, the top oven, please.
But we will not be sitting here while it bakes. We will go downstairs. So we're going to add 225 grams of brown sugar, golden brown sugar. So I'm going to press tear to bring my scale back to 0. We're going to add
Do you see when I'm doing this pie pastry? I add just the slightest amount of flour on top so I can turn it over so it doesn't stick to the mat. And then I just make sure it doesn't stick, turn it over a little tiny bit more on top. And there we go. Sorry, Reagan.
No, that's okay. 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Next, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Very simple. This recipe, 1 egg.
Oh, it's in the fridge.
One of the things that I love about this recipe in the Thermomix, one of my other favorite modes that's kind of an underutilized mode sometimes is the thicken mode. And I love hollandaise sauce. So for me, all of these sauces are wonderful to be able to use the thicken mode for. So now 225 grams of whipping cream.
You never usually have to slide a spatula under your pastry. It's just so hot in the kitchen today. 40 degrees Celsius in Edmonton, Alberta. And I'm just going to flip this over onto an 8-inch pie pan. Go ahead, Reagan.
Yeah, and now we're just going to throw the measuring cup in.
You're going to throw a measuring cup in.
I'm going to put a
put a measuring cup on. I'd hate to eat a measuring cup. Oh my goodness.
And now, because this is the thicken mode, it's not going to tell us exactly how long for 100 degrees. And we are going to select this, but we have done this
now
before.
It tells us 12 minutes.
12 minutes, because this is really the guided recipe and also the smart of the Thermomix, because it does know.
Yes, it's the intuitive Thermomix. Let's do my hands now, if we may. Thank you so much, Reagan.
Yeah.
Now, what I have done is on the close up here that you'll see, I have put it into an 8-inch pie pan. I want to talk a couple of things that I didn't mention. And that's one of the things is I use a sleeve on my rolling pin. You don't have to do that, but with pastry, it leaves a very nice texture. And I really enjoy using it. Of course, any kind of baking mat is great, but I love the Thermomix baking mat. And so now it's all, this is an 8-inch pan. This recipe is for 8 inches. And I don't know, would you pass me one of those glass pans in the pantry? I think in Alberta, we must be from Texas or something, because I couldn't even find an 8-inch pan at any store. I'll have to buy one online. The other ones with the foodie, please. Because all we have in Canada, it seems, are these great big huge pie plates, and that's what we all make. And we'll show you in a minute then. And it's a 9-inch. So because in Quebec, it's very traditional to only have the 8-inch pastries, pies, they have this recipe is for an 8-inch pie. If you want to make it fit a 9-inch pie, you'll have to do the math and figure that out. I'm sure you can do that. Now, do you see where I'm a little short there for the fluting, and I've got a little extra here? I can easily tack some on. So that's the beauty. I'm just tucking my little edges under. I don't want to waste anything. Look at the difference. This is the Alberta style pie. Look at that. It's glass, so it might be hard to see, but it's way bigger. Holy cow. Okay, so this is the perfect size for this pie recipe. Now, my mother taught me how to flute the edges like this. I'll actually show you. She pinches them just like this. It's a little pinch. Now, fluting is an art. You can do whatever you like. Another traditional way of fluting is to go back and forth with your thumb and finger, thumb and finger, thumb and finger, and you get a little fluted edge like this. Can you see that? You can have a fluted edge. That looks it's so melty in this kitchen, but you get the idea. So I'm going to flute the edge. And then all we do when the 12 minutes are up is we pour the filling into this pastry. We bake it for 20 minutes, and I'll show you our pastry here that is done. So it's already partially cooked. That's the beauty of the thickening mode. You don't have to cook it too long in the oven. It's all mixed together. It's partially cooked. It goes in for, so there, Mom, Helen, my homage to you. I always think of you when I make a pie. I always think of your fluting, and I wish this kitchen wasn't so hot. It's not an excuse. It's simply a reality today. And there we have our fluted pie. And here is our baked pie. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring a nice clean board over. I'll be a second.
So we have a question while you're grabbing the board.
Sure.
If you weren't using the custard into this pie, and you were just baking this pie, would you
He's
use
baking
pie?
this
Or the,
original
sorry,
pie without the custard.
sorry, just baking the pastry, the pie crust.
Why would I bake the pie crust without a filling?
Well, that's what we're asking, if you would use pie weights if you're gonna use it for something else.
Use pie what?
Pie weights, if you're just blind baking.
Oh, of course. This is pie pastry.
Yeah.
If you're blind baking this pie, you use pie weights. If you're blind baking for lemon meringue or any kind of freezer pie, yes, you use pie weights. I use rice. I use things that are economical around the house. And I just keep my rice. I use it over and over and over again. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take this pie, very, very sweet, very, very lovely, delectable pie with the most flaky pastry. I'm actually going to show you the pastry. I guess you can't see it with my floury hands, but it is so flaky. May I have a wet cloth to wash my hands, please? And I'm going to make 8 pieces, even though it's just an 8-inch pie, simply because this is so sweet. A little piece, a little sliver of this pie might not be enough for some of you, but it will be enough for most of you. Wow. And I want to show you what it looks like with cleaner hands. Excuse me, please. I'll just clean my hands a little bit. And we're almost ready to say goodbye, but we don't want to say goodbye without showing you our finished product. And I want to go on to the big view now. That you've seen this here. It's just a little bit of the pie flake. And let's look at the side. I'll show you up here the side view. Okay.